able
Okay.
to come in by video.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'll call the Crow Wing County Regular Board Meeting for October 27th, 2020 to order. And at this time, if you'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken,
Here.
Commissioner Barrows,
Here.
Commissioner Hoag,
Here.
Commissioner Franzine. Here. Commissioner Coring,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. And with that, I'll open up the open forum. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on something not on our current agenda for a matter of 2 minutes? Please come forward, state your name and your address for the record, please. It's 2 minutes.
Troy Scheffler, that's all capitals. I come from the kingdom of Scheffler in the land of Merrifield. Hear ye, fellow Kekastanis and citizens of Crow Wing. I arrived today in this board's traditional garb so as to show respect for your culture in Clown World. However, I must be a bearer of bad tidings, as my commander, Big Man Tyrone, sent me as an emissary of Kek to seek resolution. We all know that you normies have been hostile against our high prophet, Pepe. Although we did agree on a treaties with your nations called the Bill of Rights and Constitution, those you dress in silly costumes are violating the treaty. Your sheriff's department. Your military commanders from Chief Craig Taylor of the ancient lands in Nisswa and your Sheriff Goddard of the fairy land of Crows, along with Captain Meyer from Mordor, have been talking a lot about me, a humble Kek devotee. These brutes invaded my private data, harassed me on my cell phone. Captain Myers has threatened me, and one of your cheese pizza deputies was peeping in my window at my home. I feel that when I inform Mr. Goddard that deputies are peeping in my windows and later that he sees my rippling muscles on TV and instantly unlawfully runs my private, protected data per the DPPA to find where I live and what I look like, was a time he looked at me with passion, and I literally thought he wanted to rape me. As Grand Justicar of Kekistan, I must ask you normies, is this a declaration of war? Are my peoples not oppressed enough? They unlawfully accessed my data and retaliated against the Treaty of the Constitution and Amendment 1 in retaliation and jealousy of our collective brilliance. Kekistanis are a force to be reckoned with. We will draft a scroll to be served upon the Most High of your tyranny in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you, Mr. Scheffler. Your time is up.
Unless our demands are met, we will
Ask you to
keep
sit
coming
down
and
at
coming
this
with
time.
more and more deplorables. Let us give prayer to Kek, Mekaleka Hai, Mekahaini Ho. Back in 2 weeks to serve you the scroll, we'll see your asses.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during open forum? Seeing none, we'll move on to the review and approve the minutes from the 10/13/2020 regular county board meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to approve,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Brecken. Therese, if you would call the roll call.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Review and approve the agenda. Any additions? No additions. I would look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Coring approved. Commissioner Franzine, second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Number 5, consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brecken seconds that motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. I see on my clock it's 9:07, so I would look for a motion to open a public hearing for the restatement of Ossawinamakee Lake Improvement District.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion. Commissioner Franzine seconds the motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Public hearing is now open. Mr. Ryan is going to lead us.
I never claim to lead anybody, but I will offer assistance. Mr. Chair, I'm assuming you want me to remove my mask?
I would appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, I come before you today during this open meeting just to give you a little update of where my efforts are at in this endeavor. I have had some communications with a Kathleen Metzger, and I may be pronouncing that wrong, Metzker, who is, I believe, a hydrologist for the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. Through this restatement process, I sent copies of all the materials to her after I'd had a phone conversation to confirm that was the right person to send them to. She's reviewed them and has asked that one change in what will become the final resolution be added, and that is that some type of a definition of the tracks that were omitted the first time around by basically what I'm calling a clerical error be included in the resolution. And so I have, in my version, which I did not share with you, typed that in red line so that I would know where to put that. That actually will go into the 5th whereas clause, and we'll do that by parcel identification number, and so those will be in that final resolution. I've received no other comments from the DNR or anyone else substantive as to the contents of the document. One other change from the last version that I provided to the county board is under number 8 of the now therefore be it resolved. The bottom line where the current assessed valuation was blank before, I have that filled in the final resolution that will be filled in. Land Services was able to provide that number to me since the last time I appeared before the board. The only other contact I have had with anyone in regards to this after the public hearing was scheduled, I had I returned a call of one individual. I can't remember his name at the moment. He had called Therese, and Therese forwarded it to me. He just had some questions what it meant, and so we talked through that. It's not really changing anything, it's just clarifying what the original intent was and basically adding in a few parcels that somehow were errantly not included in the first time around. He thanked me for the information, and that was the end of our conversation. So I have nothing else that I can share for you. We are not asking for action today. Today was an opportunity for public input. After that public input is received, I would anticipate that Mr. Chair, yourself, on behalf of the board, would ask me to prepare final documents, submit them to you for the next board meeting scheduled in November, which would be within the time frame under the statutory confinements to do this. And then at that time, there would be possible action by the board, should you choose to do so, to enact the restatement, a resolution for the restatement of the Osawatomie Lake Improvement District. I can answer any questions, Mr. Chair, that you or any member of the board may have.
Has the LID Board of Directors been notified of this addition?
I have not spoken with the LID Board of Directors personally, as they are represented by Mark Severson, an attorney. I have communicated with Mr. Severson consistently as we're going through the process, so he and I are on the same page all the time.
Okay. I know Mr. Peterson is here from the Osawatomie LID. Do you have any questions?
Good morning. I'm Dave Peterson. I'm president of the Aussie LID, and this is a kind of a quest we've been on for about 3 years or so, and so this is a culmination of that work. And this is the first I've heard of those extra things that you added, Mr. Ryan, and they don't sound onerous to me at all. So I just want to thank everybody that's been involved in this, that as we go forward with this, that it will be approved in November. The only thing I did see, I read the meeting packet, and there was 3 letters that you received comments on this. Seems to be some confusion about responsibilities or what type of organization they are. Some thought they'd have to be a 501c3, which there's no way you can do that as the organization is set up. The other thing is I don't think a lot of them understand the responsibilities that they do have. Doesn't matter who handles the finances. They're still responsible for them, whether we do it ourselves as a LID or the county. We work through the county. So the liability isn't any greater. We feel that it streamlines the financial portion of this, where we don't have to go back and forth with the county to get the bills paid and the rest of that. And it just involves you when you really don't need to be involved in it. So we think these are good changes going forward, and we look forward to you passing that resolution.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Ryan, if you'll,
I think one clarification.
okay,
Mr. Peterson, I saw the emails that you were talking about, or letters. That deals with the restatement of the Crow Wing County Lake Improvement District policy. And that doesn't pertain to you, this resolution of the issues with your organization. And so I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear on that. I have reviewed
Kind of
those,
thought
and
that.
I'll be here later in the meeting when you discuss that if you have any questions. But I believe Ryan Simonson and Gary Griffin are going to address the board and lead that discussion. But I will be here if you have any questions of me as well.
so you'll prepare the documents we need for this reinstatement?
I will.
For
And
the
get
next
those
board meeting?
filed with the court and files with the court, I'm sorry. Filed with you all so that you can see it ahead of time. And then what I would ask is that when you believe it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, you would close the public meeting and then seek county action to place this on the next agenda as an action item for consideration of the resolution that would then be before you.
Okay. So I would look for a motion to close the public hearing and to set the next board meeting as the time and date to hear the final resolution, I guess, or paperwork.
So moved.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brecken seconds. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag? Aye. Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Community services, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that was part of the motion.
Oh, that was, okay, I'm sorry.
And set.
Okay.
So we did it all in one motion.
Sorry.
Community services. Ms. Lewick. The adult mental health grant contract for 2021 through 2022. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Tammy Lewick, Adult Services Manager at Community Services. I'm bringing a request before you today for our Adult Mental Health Initiative grant plan that we do every 2 years to DHS. And with that, I wanted to just talk briefly about some work of the Adult Mental Health Initiative. So first, the Region 5 Adult Mental Health Initiative is dedicated to improving the mental health of our community through intentional planning and partnership across the region. Is it there? Oh, thank you. There we go. This was made possible through legislation, special legislation, back in 1995, and it was amended in 1997. Our regional mental health initiative includes Aiken, Cass, Crow Wing, Morrison, Todd, and Wadena County, as well as the Leech Lake Band and the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe tribes. The goal and the authority of the Region 5 Mental Health Initiative is to prepare the adult mental health grant for our region, as I said, every 2 years. So there's regional planning that goes along with that. We have three consumers that sit on our board, and we seek input from them as well as the Regional Local Advisory Council on Adult Mental Health. The grant award is annually is $1,460,000 approximately. As I said, the work is to build the mental health continuum of care, evaluating and coordinating and implementing this plan. The goals of the AMHI is to expand outreach efforts and education, to provide mental health resources throughout our whole region. We would like client services to be self-directed to the maximum degree possible. We work to try to offer these services in the least restrictive setting possible, supporting independence. Provide effective support at the right time and in the right place. The programs work to incorporate a holistic view of both mental and physical health care. We work to reduce hospitalizations and hold orders, those involuntary services. And we try to do this in a cost-effective way. Some of the services that we fund, and I'm not going to read these, but up here you can see a listing of the types of services that are funded. The crisis line through third quarter has taken just under 5,000 calls, with approximately 500 of these calls being referred on to our mobile crisis team for crisis assessment and outreach. Our crisis residential services, we utilize Safe Harbor here locally, as well as a program called New Leaf, and they serve right around 30 individuals from this region on a monthly basis. Wellness in the Woods has a virtual peer support currently going with COVID, and there's been over 200 logins each month. Crow Wing has had a high participation rate in this, with 73 logins each month, which is right around 32% of the people that are attending. Our ACT team, which serves serious and persistent mental illness, serves approximately 50 consumers from this region on an ongoing basis. And then I thought I would just put this up, these are some of the providers that the Adult Mental Health Initiative contracts with and the services that they provide. So you can see we have Northern Pines, Nystrom's, the Crisis Line, New Leaf, Lutheran Social Services. Sourcewell funds our regional transition specialist, which I think we were here earlier this month, and not earlier this month, but earlier this summer, I guess, and spoke with you about, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. They also host our adult mental health coordinator, regional coordinator. Wellness in the Woods, Northland Counseling, and Lake Country Associates. I wanted to highlight just a couple of regional impacts that the Adult Mental Health Initiative has been a part of. The first one is our comprehensive reentry program. This is where we put social workers in each of the 6 counties. We have actually 2 social workers embedded in our jail here in Crow Wing County, and then the rest of the counties each have 1 social worker. The goal of this program is to reduce the number of people with mental illness and/or co-occurring disorders from being in the jail. As we have seen a reduction in the number of people that our jail bookings actually have come down. The length of stay has also been reduced, and our recidivism rate has also been reduced here in Crow Wing County. Teresa Reardon, our social worker here in Crow Wing County, just gave an example of last year to this year, and she said last year we were at 36% of people coming in that they were assessing with serious mental illness or identified as having a serious mental illness, and she said from June through September that's been at 58%. So even though our numbers have been down in the jail, the individuals that are coming in are identifying with a serious mental illness. And then the regional transition specialist, as I said, we had come earlier this summer and spoke a little bit about this program. This was a program that we put in place, started in about 2018, and I think I shared this when we were here at that time, that as you can see, so on the far left, our total regional DNMC days does not meet criteria, was at 67. And then we lost the staff person for the first half of 2019, and we saw quite a significant increase. We were able to get a person back in that position in May of 2019, but it did take a little time to get that person trained. And so we did see some significance in our DNMC days during that time. The goal of the regional transition specialist is to really prioritize working with our commitment cases, that those that are at the Anoka Regional Treatment Center and or the CBHHs across the state. And they work on helping them to get to their next, like, are they coming back into the community? Do they need a placement? So that we don't have people sitting in those settings that are no longer needing to be there. They're stable and they're ready to return to the community. At that time, Mike Willie is in this position, and he was hired in January of 2020. When he came and reported in July, when we were here, our average DNMC days was 2.1. Currently, that number is at 4.7. Our goal is to keep the average DNMC days 5 and under. The 4.7 does not include anyone from Crow Wing County. We actually haven't had anyone meet DNMC since the end of June. And not that we haven't had consumers in those settings. Currently, we have 7 individuals committed to a state facility or another hospital in the area. So those 4.7 average days for the region is 3 consumers. So those are 3 consumers that are stuck in the state system. And some of that is due to COVID. And then to the right, you can see just our Crow Wing County numbers. That's our annual DNMC only, and then that does not meet criteria actual days. And so you can see the last 2 years, 18 and 19, we had significant DNMC costs, and this year we're doing really well in this area. The last program that I wanted to just talk about was the White Oak Supportive Housing Project. This was funded in part by our Region 5 Adult Mental Health Initiative. This is a program or a project of the Central Minnesota Housing Partnership. The White Oaks apartment building is located in Baxter. This is a 21-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartments that are for single adults who meet mental health, they have to have a mental health diagnosis, as well as have a need for this supportive housing environment. So maybe they haven't done very well independently. And so the goal here is to create stability for these individuals that tend to struggle in complete independence. So renting an apartment on their own is rather difficult. Nystrom's is the provider, the service provider that is on site. They are there 24/7, and they are just there as support to the individuals who live there. Tenants, it's very much like an apartment though. Tenants are free to come and go. They can work a job. The referrals must come from Region 5, so the individuals need to be from Region 5 plus. They do need to be also considered low income.
Tammy, if I can just ask you a question, because I know the one building is open at White Oaks.
Yep,
Then there's two buildings that are still sort of under construction.
yep.
Any date for when they're open, and what type of individuals are they serving?
Yeah, my understanding is the family units will be open prior to the end of the year. I actually think they'll be open soon. I haven't heard an official date, but as far as I know, it will be before the end of this year. The 20-unit, the one-bedroom units with the adults is open, and they, as of yesterday, I actually talked to them, and they're at 19. So they currently have all of the apartments, well, I shouldn't say all but one filled, and they do have a list, a waiting list. So they're working through the applications to fill that last unit.
So the other two buildings won't require a mental health
No,
issue?
nope.
Okay.
No, they're family units that also, you have to meet low-income criteria to live there, but, and the rent is, affordable, and
Okay, thank you.
I'll back up one. Yeah, and this was just some COVID-19 updates just from our Region 5 Adult Mental Health Initiative. Just wanted to, inform, I'm sure you maybe already know some of this, but that telemedicine resources are available. Almost all of our mental health providers in the region are doing things in remotely through telemedicine, but many of them are also doing in-person services. So if a person is really either needing that or wanting that, they can request that, and most of our providers are doing some in-person services as well.
So let me ask you a question about that.
Yep.
Have you heard if these individuals who are experiencing mental health issues actually do ask for the help? Because sometimes that's the problem, they won't ask.
Yeah, as far as I know, I'm assuming there are people, we've been trying really hard to message to the community that these services are available. The crisis line would also be working towards that, and I know their calls are up. So, making those linkages with people, Wellness in the Woods with the peer support warm line. As I was going to mention here, the virtual peer support network, Wellness in the Woods, is doing that twice daily, which is ran by peer support specialists. But then the Crisis Link is also doing a program, a mental health support group virtually called HeartLink, which is supported by 2 mental health professionals. And I think those are sometimes maybe first steps, in getting connected to those resources. I have not heard that consumers are not getting resources, but I wonder sometimes if they know, like you said, do they know that these resources are available? Maybe they have fears about going out into the community to receive their services, and are they aware that they can be offered through telemedicine? I think our providers have really worked to try to inform the community of that, but yet we do wonder. I know, like locally, our drop-in center is still not open, and that was recently was discussed in the local paper regarding an individual that really is missing that, that in-person connection. So, we do have, of course, some services that are not currently in operation in the way they were before. That doesn't mean that those providers, like Northern Pines, I think put out over 70 computers to their consumers so that they could connect with them remotely as well. And then the final thing, just to mention our Region 5 website, we have a website that includes a lot of information about all these providers and the services, and then we have a special section called Coping with COVID-19 to try to help people get connected. And so today I'm here to ask for your approval of our grant contract with the state of Minnesota. This will go through January of 2021 through December of 2022. And so I'm asking for your approval on that. Per the DHS request, the adult mental health grant contract is going to come via DocuSign, and I have been listed as the county representative to sign off on the agreement, so I'd be looking for the approval of that as well, as part of that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve. We do this every 2 years.
You're right.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Commissioner Hoag seconds the motion. Therese, if you will call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. Congratulations, motion passes.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is 8.1, Land Services, approve the location for the Sand Creek Bridge.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. If you recall, earlier this spring, the county received $150,000 from the state all-terrain vehicle account to perform planning and design work for a bridge across Sand Creek. We contracted with Woodseth Smith Knowlting to perform this work, and they have identified 5 crossing options for a bridge across Sand Creek. I believe there's a map in the packet. This was presented to the Natural Resource Advisory Committee on October 7th, and the committee voted to approve option A, which is the crossing closest to the Mississippi River, as the option to focus on for the planning and design work for a bridge. And we wanted to bring this before the board for consideration, before the full board, to make sure the full board is agreeable to option A. And it's also supported by the Snowmobile Trail Association, Cuyuna Lake State Trail Association, and the Cuyuna Iron Range Riders ATV Club.
Any questions? I'd look for a motion then to approve.
So moved.
Commissioner Franzine approves the motion to identify option A as the desired spot to go across Sand Creek.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, if you'll call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
8.2, the MC2 Invest LLC, Kevin McDonald, final plat for Gateway Storage. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. The next agenda item here, property owner request is MC2 Invest LLC for the applicant of Kevin McDonald. Since we don't have an address right now, the parcel ID number is 683-00545. This is located along County Road 16, Ideal Township. The request before you today is to approve, table, or deny a preliminary, a final plat request of Gateway Storage consisting of 6 total lots, 5 non-residential lots to be used for individual commercial storage units only, and 1 common lot. Have in front of you on the screen just a survey sketch of what's going on there. I should note that the zoning right now in that area is commercial 2, and all of the surrounding parcels are commercial 2. Again, the request is this is an undeveloped lot, is to have 5 commercial individual storage units within a larger building, and to, as a plat would do, you'd be able to sell those individual units. This was recommended for approval at our Planning Commission meeting on June 18th. The county board did approve the preliminary plat on July 14th already. We haven't received any comments of any kind on this proposal, and so at this point, we're just looking for a motion on the final plat.
Any questions? Commissioner Coring, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No questions.
So I would look for a motion to approve the final plat of Gateway Storage consisting of 6 total lots.
Also move.
Commissioner Brecken makes the motion,
Second.
second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jake. We'll move on to 8.3, Gregory and Sharon Richards Trust Land Use Map Amendment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. The next item here is for the property owner of Gregory and Sharon Richards Trust, consisting of 3 separate parcels. And I believe 2 are in Fairfield Township and 1 in Perry Lake Township. The request for you today is a land use map amendment. This is a zoning change. And this gets a little bit detailed, but I'll read it for you. The first is for parcel ID 602-70506 from Rural Residential 10 with Shoreland District and Rural Residential 5 to Rural Residential 5 and Shoreland District involving approximately 39.62 total acres. The second is parcels 602-70509 from Rural Residential 5 with Shoreland District and Rural Residential 10 to Rural Residential 5 with Shoreland District involving approximately 39.65 total acres. And the third parcel zoning change is for parcel ID 850-50508 from Shoreland District with Rural Residential 20 and Rural Residential 5 to Shoreland District with Rural Residential 5 involving 38.93 total acres. So here we have the 2 parcels in Fairfield Township up on the screen, highlighted in light blue. You can see that on the north parcel, it's predominantly Rural Residential 10 with a little bit of Shoreland District in the lower right-hand corner. The south parcel is a mix of zoning, but predominantly zoned Rural Residential 10 with some Shoreland District, light blue, and then Rural Residential 5 in the lower right-hand corner. The surrounding zoning in the area is a mix of Rural Residential 5, which is that medium blue color, and the Rural Residential 10 to the west in the brown color. So that gives you a good feel of what's going on there. And then you can see State Highway 6 to the east running north-south. The Perry Lake property, I don't know if we have a map of that handy. Oh, there we go. Thank you. That was excellent. We've got mostly Shoreland District in that light blue color with Rural Residential 20 in the northeast corner. And you can see the surrounding, this is, of course, for both of these images, this is the current zoning. And you can see the light blue Shoreland District surrounding with Rural Residential 5, that medium blue color to the west. And then way to the east, you have Rural Residential 20 current zoning. The clear color where you can see the actual aerial photo, those are parcels. Those are just county-managed, tax-forfeited public land. So that's why there's no zoning attached to those. A little bit of history on these parcels that I think is important for the record here. Prior to 2007, all of these parcels were zoned either green acres or ag forestry back then. There was a request by Mr. Richards to rezone these 3 parcels to Rural Residential 5 at that time, and that was approved by the county. However, in 2011, the county went through a comprehensive land use zoning change, following all the proper procedures, statute, county rules regarding public notice and things like that. So the entire land use map of the county went through a brand new ordinance and a brand new zoning map. So even though in 2007 the zoning did change on these parcels to Rural Residential 5, the new zoning that you see on your screen before you was placed over the top of it as the current zoning, and that's sort of I'm picking the right term here, the law of the land right now is we have to hold those zonings. Mr. Richards is now requesting to go back to the zoning that he was approved in 2007 before this comprehensive land use change. So a little bit of history there on how this has been flipping back and forth. This was unanimously recommended for approval at the October 15th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, and we haven't received any comments of any kind on this proposal. And with that, I'll take questions or seek a motion.
Any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Coring, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions.
So at this time, I'm sorry.
Oh, yep, I
I
was
would
just
look
going
for
to,
a motion to amend the land use map on the three properties properly described by Mr. Free. I'm not going to read that entire thing again, so we look for that
I would make the motion to approve the rezoning for the both Wolf, was it Fairfield and, or
Perry Lake and Fairfield Township.
Perry Lake and Fairfield parcels to rural residential 5.
Second.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion to approve. Commissioner Franzine seconds that motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
8.4, utility easement request, Ellis/Crow Wing Power, Perry Lake Township.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So this is a request for utility easement across tax forfeited land from Dan and Kimberly Ellis and Crowing Power in Perry Lake Township. The county granted the Ellises a private egress easement in 2013, and at the time, the county received a reciprocal easement in return across the Ellis's property to access some county land that was behind their property as well. So there was a exchange of easements in that case. Normally, there would be an actual fee for the easement, but since we received the reciprocal easement, it was a wash. And so now this new utility easement request is over the exact same area as the private easement, and the proposal here today, since it's over the same area, is to waive the typical easement fee and instead only charge for staff time in preparing the easement, and consider granting the easement.
Questions? Commissioner Coring, any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
And I would look for a motion to grant a 33-foot utility easement to Crowing Power, crossing over tax forfeited land as described by the southeast 1/4 of northwest 1/4, section 9, township 136, range 28, Perry Lake Township, property number 850900516, subject to the easement policy, and further approve waiving the standard easement fee and replacing it with expenses incurred by the county for administrative costs related to this easement.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Franzine seconds the motion. Therese, if you will call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're on to number 8.5, the Lake Improvement District LID policy revisions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I've got an additional comment we've received on this that I'll hand out to you at this time. Okay, Mr. Chair, okay to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so, Mr. Chair and members of the board, here today, looking for a recommendation from the county board to approve the proposed lid policy revisions as written and revised by the county land services staff. So this has been a topic that we've been discussing over the past year and have been working with our partners and the attorney's office to effort some revisions to our current lake improvement district policy. Just some comments. We have 9 lake improvement districts in Crow Wing County. The first one was approved for creation in 2004, and the latest one, CB Lake, was approved as late as 2018. So we've had a good run of LIDs being created in this county in the last 20 years. So we have LID policies which provide direction to staff, county staff, and the LID members on how to help them establish, run, and report on, and also dissolving those LIDs. It provides framework beyond just the statutory and the Minnesota rules about what the county expects to see, how things work with the LID operation. The last policy revision occurred in September of 2017, so it's been about 3 years. So we've been working, as I said, over the past year to revise those LID policies as we see opportunities for change, and to increase calibration amongst the LIDs and just overall make sure it reflects statute rules. So we discussed this at the Committee of the Whole in 2019, and we received additional feedback on September 8th at the County Board meeting. I did include a summary of the proposed policy revisions, and that's been provided to your board packet, so hopefully everyone's had a chance to review that sheet that just sort of summarizes the significant changes that we're proposing to make. I would mention one additional change that I failed to put in that, what I call the cheat sheet of changes, and that is under Section 9, donations can be accepted by the LIDs through this policy, directly through the LIDs, without having to go through the county board as they do right now, so long as that's approved by the LID Board of Directors and put into the annual report. So I would mention that this policy revision also proposes a mechanism for directly accepting LID donations. We put these proposed policy revisions on our county website on September 22nd, and we had a comment period just for the lake improvement districts themselves, so it wasn't a county-wide public comment, and so we had about a 30-day comment period. The entirety of these revisions have been reviewed by our county attorney's office, and at the end of the comment period, we received 15 comments from 9 individuals, counting the one that you just received. And just a summary of the most common comments that we received: there were concerns about submitting an annual report with an October 1st deadline. There were concerns about potential financial penalties for late or incomplete reports. And there were significant concerns about the LIDs directly receiving and managing their own finances. I would comment, Mr. Chair and members of the board, concerning the October 1st deadline. Land Services, after further consultation, feels it to be appropriate that if you so choose, it wouldn't be a problem for Land Services to receive annual reports by November 1st, if that's something that you would like to consider. With that, I think that's a pretty good introduction. We do have Debbie Erickson and Nick here, as well as Don Ryan, to take any questions that I'm not able to answer. And with that, I'll take any questions.
So, Jake, one quick question. Why would anybody submit a report that's not complete?
Well, Mr. Chair and members of the board, I don't think they would probably knowingly submit a plan that's incomplete, but we have a checklist of requirements, both that the statute requires for an annual report and make sure that they check off each of those items to make sure their annual report is complete. So, for example, we have had LIDs that are required to submit their management plans, or if they've treated curly-leaf pondweed or other invasives, to show us the evidence that those have been treated, or their management plans, and sometimes we'll find that those are missing. So we do have a list of requirements, and if any of those are missing, then we're going to ask them to provide that information.
But they have access to that list, to that checklist.
Yes, we provide that to them.
Yeah, so
Mr. Chair, question, what was the issue with the October 1st versus November 1st? Why was there concern with that being, I guess, an issue?
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Hoag, I'm going to try and synthesize some of the comments that I received, but it's my impression that the business that the lids conduct does occur sometimes in October, some of the end transactions that they do. And the concern was that submitting a report by October 1st, they're still doing some things as a lid actively during that early October period. And I think most of them, I don't want to speak for of them, tend to end their active business certainly by mid-October, and that would, I think they thought that would be just a good wrap-up to the year of that November 1st, everything's done.
Mr. Franzine?
I'd just like to make a motion in section 5 to change that from October 1st to November 1st.
Okay, do you want to make that as part of the motion to move the,
Sure, I'll make
Changes?
the whole motion then.
okay, so the motion is to approve the proposed lid policy revisions as written, with one exception, moving it to November 1st, and revised, and the document is revised by the County Land Services staff. Do I have a second?
Hello?
Hello? Yes,
Yeah, this is Mike O'Brien from the Lower South Long Lake Improvement District.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to say a few words before you approve the changes.
Okay,
Good to go?
go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Mike O'Brien. I live on Lower South Long Lake, 8987 Paradise Beach Road, and I'm president of the LID. We have been in existence. We were approved in 2006, and we have some concerns about taking over the financial responsibilities. We are all non-paid volunteers, not government employees. We like to know who's going to indemnify the person doing this and what is the cost to the LID. Who is going to open and own the checking account used to pay invoices, and what happens when that person is no longer a board of director on the LID. We will have to hire an accountant to oversee and audit the finances, and the cost will reduce our operating budget used to treat AIS. What process is going to be used to transfer the current LID funds to a private checking account? Several of our board members are willing, or none of them are willing to take this on, and some are thinking of resigning over this issue. We're wondering what the reason for this financial change is and what's driving that change. We propose that the county increase its fees for administrative costs to cover the financial costs incurred by the county. We pay a minimum fee right now, but we would suggest instead of the LIDs taking over the financial responsibilities, that the county increase the fees commensurate with their financial costs incurred. Thank you.
Thank you. Has there been any discussion about increasing the fees and keeping it in? I know we've had discussions, I think, with finance.
You know, Mr. Chair and members of the board, concerning the financial part of this, I know there was a significant amount of comments. I think I'd probably feel more comfortable if Debbie, maybe, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna, has any comments in regards to discussions on fees or finances, if that's okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, when we discussed this previously with regard to the change in process for the lake improvement districts, it was noted that part of when we first started LIDs, Crow Wing County was one of the first counties in the state that had lake improvement districts that established. And there was not a lot of guidance or plan, if you will, on how to accomplish this. So we kind of were working from scratch and what that looked like. At the time, it was doing one district, then two, then three, and so on and so forth, that we were including all of that information. Right now, the process, as Mr. O'Brien stated, that there's not want or desire from the local level to manage their own finances from that perspective, from the standpoint of internal controls. There are less internal controls with the county managing the LID funds than there is or would be if the LIDs were managing it themselves. Right now, if a bill needs to be paid, the only thing that occurs is someone submitting a bill with a signature or an initials from the LID board saying, pay this bill. We're not doing we don't require copies of their minutes. We don't have any of the action that would actually tell us that somebody else approved this bill from the LID's perspective. And the bigger issue is that lake improvement districts, when they organize themselves under statute, are basically establishing themselves as a taxing entity or a taxing authority similar to a township government. Again, not typically professional financial folks. These are most often volunteers who are in charge of their own financial aspects of levying their tax, paying their bills, and collecting their funds. The funds that are currently held by the county would be transferred to the lake improvement districts via ACH, direct deposit, that we currently do with all of our other taxing entities. We have that set up based on their authority, and that's how we would anticipate these processes happening in the future. We settle out taxes twice a year. As you know, we pay the cities and townships in July, and we pay them again in December. And we would transfer whatever funds were available and collected in those two timeframes to those lake improvement districts.
Okay. And are there, this is a question maybe for Jake or Debbie, either one. In other counties, the LIDs, are they operating their own checkbooks, financial situation?
Mr. Chair, I believe when we did a survey before, most of the counties were doing similar to what we are proposing, settling out the funds to the lake improvement districts for them to manage their own financial processes. We have learned that there are a couple who maybe have 1 or 2 lake improvement districts in their county, and they are currently handling those financial transactions, but they are fairly new setups that they are working through that process with, like I said, 1 or 2 total in their county. So the majority of them are just settling the funds out to the districts to manage themselves.
So there are lids around the county that could provide some assistance if the local lids needed some information on how to go through the process?
I'm sure, Mr. Chair, that would be possible, that there are LIDs across the state that could provide some feedback on that. Mr. O'Brien is correct. They probably will need to contact or discuss with at least a discussion with the financial planner as far as how to set that process up from the initial standpoint of things. But there are opportunities for them to do so, I'm sure.
And to your point, it's no different than a township currently operates under, so it seems pretty clear to me, but we'll see. We have a motion on the floor. I need a second.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brecken seconds Commissioner Franzine's motion. With that, Teresa, I'll ask you to call the roll call.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Dick. Thank you, Debbie. Move on to number 9, the CARES Act Coronavirus Relief Funds Purchase Request. Mr. Melky.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Today we have the final request for use of CRF funds for county departments. On the list today for approval are 2 laptops for the admin staff in the administrator's office to allow them to do telework for $2,877. We are actually going to modify the next line. Meeting rooms 1 and 2 tech upgrades is originally slated for $100,000. We would like to, after S&T met yesterday, modify that to be one meeting room per building that will be updated with new technology. The cost of this won't be $100,000, it'll be $30,000. It'll be 5 different meeting rooms that will be updated with the tech at about $6,000 a piece. So line 2 modify to be just meeting rooms throughout the county system, $30,000. Next on the list is upgraded PCs to replace the VDI system. The cost for this is about $125,000. It's a nice round number. We have quotes that put this below that. We allowed a little bit of flex room here. What's going on is a few meetings ago, we approved updates to the VDI system in land services. It turns out in order to make the new systems work to support audiovisual, we have to update the server itself. The cost of that is close to $300,000. So it is cheaper for us to actually replace the VDI system with laptops where needed. This will allow IT to do that transition from the VDI system. We also are looking at installing a wireless panic system at the front entrance for community services. This cost is $2,078.70. They have a mobile check-in desk at the front. This allows them to actually have a panic button up at the front door if they have an issue to get assistance. We are also looking to update the phone system for public health. They added an additional line for the response to COVID-19. The current phone system that they have does not support that additional line, so it's not ringing directly to their desks. They have to go a backdoor way to get to it. This would allow them to actually have phones at their desk that allow them to answer that additional line. The cost for that is $2,870. And then final on the list, we did an approval a few meetings ago for updates to the courtroom, courtroom 1. It turns out that we need to add an additional $2,779.73 to that list to upgrade or actually install wireless microphone systems to support the remote hearings. So the total cost of that is now $175,000. I didn't put the math in here, sorry, but for the total request.
Any questions? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to approve these requests.
Also move.
Commissioner Brecken moves the motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, if you'll call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you,
Thank
Nick.
you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
County Sheriff is not here. Adam, you don't want to speak for him? Thank you. So we'll move on to the County Attorney for the 11.1 Cartway petition in Second Assessment District.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Just an update. Today we had the cartway issue for the Nelson Preserve on your agenda. In speaking with the attorneys for both sides, the petitioner and the affected landowners, I pulled it from the agenda. And the reason that I did that is because they asked me to, and they are having some conversations. They have entered into some agreements so that both sides can access the other people's property so that they can kind of work toward hopefully a resolution. And so it just made sense if they were asking for some more time, not to take up your time here today to do that. But I did leave it on the agenda, and they know I'm appearing today because I just wanted to publicly state so that the public would know and we have, everybody's on the same page why we pulled it from the agenda. I have not requested that it be put back on a specific date, and I will continue to track this myself. I anticipate I'm going to be having more conversations with both of the attorneys and both sides, and when we believe it's appropriate as a group to bring it back, or at the request of one of the parties, of course, to bring it back before you, then I will coordinate with Therese and the county administrator's office to get it back on the agenda. And if something of substance happens in the middle that I believe would be appropriate to give you an update, I'll make sure that that happens as well. I can certainly field any questions. I just wanted the opportunity to let the public know why we pulled it, and I thought you'd appreciate that as well.
So because you pulled it, do we need to actually table it?
I don't believe we do. I talked to your parliamentarian. He believed we'd be okay. I think we're good to go, particularly since, unless one of you has an objection, both sides asked for this. If one side had asked for it and one side hadn't, then I think you would debate and decide whether you table it or not. I think you're good. But I'll defer to your parliamentarian, Mr. Wolf. Are you okay with what we're doing? Yes. He says yes if you couldn't hear him through his mask, so.
Okay.
Other than that, I just wanted to give a shout out to our elections officials. I think they're doing a bang-up job. I've had a number, every year, every election year, I'm involved with a number of different issues, and Debbie and I have met several times, and it looks a little quiet as you walk in here today, but I can tell you yesterday was anything but quiet around here. And I also want to give a shout out to all the county employees at senior management. Yesterday, Debbie asked for some assistance. I know that a number of people from some different departments, including mine, have volunteered. And Darcy and Tim's office is coordinating all of that volunteerism. And so once again, your employees are pulling together on a very important thing, and that's making sure we run an efficient, effective election. I can field any questions you might have. I just thought they all deserved a shout out today.
Wow, appreciate that, and appreciate the staff for stepping up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
County Administrator.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, yesterday there was a senior management team meeting, and we had an update, of course, on COVID. And as you know, the case numbers are rising in Crow Wing County. It is not as bad as what we're seeing in some of the neighboring jurisdictions, but it is still a cause for concern. To put this into some perspective, as recently as probably the end of September, we were running a 14-day average new case count per day per 10,000 residents in the 6 to 7 range, and now we're pushing in the 40 range. And so I would just ask the public to reflect on the disruption that this rising case count and everything that we can do to mitigate it. We see the disruption with businesses, we see the disruption with families trying to provide daycare at the last minute, we see the disruption with businesses that are forced to close, we see the disruption with our school systems, who are having to adjust between multiple learning styles. And so I just want to take the opportunity to say the best we can do to try to contain the virus is still wear a mask, social distance, sanitize. And so as we see that disruption in our community, I hope we can get broad community support for those measures. We also talked about CARES, and Nick gave you a little bit of an update. I think some of you met yesterday for the Phase 2 economic development grants for the for-profits and the nonprofits. That'll be on our agenda on November 3rd. We are coming very quickly to the close of CARES Act dollars and our allocation of them and the management of them. So I think we're right on track with where we should be in terms of that timeline. Frankly, the fact that we were as swift as we were with Phase 1 gave us the time to do Phase 2. And you may recall, that was our intention all along. And so I think it's working out very well. The SMT is also working on the development of a key performance indicator for supervisors and managers, those who lead in the county, as well as that's all employees who have a leadership role in some way, shape, or form. And so working with all of the supervisors and managers in the county to try to define what that leadership accountability will look like for first-tier contributing employee, for a first-tier supervisor, for mid-level supervisors, all the way up through senior management and myself included. So we're working on that. We are in the process of embarking on a pulse survey, which is sort of a smaller engagement survey. We don't do it every year anymore. We do it every other year, the full-blown engagement survey, but we do a mini survey. So we're about to launch on that. And then talked about some training opportunities that we have. We have not been sending many employees to training through 2020, as you can imagine. And so looking at alternative ways that we can still deliver training through virtual means. And I think that there are some prospects out there for us to do that. So trying to be as creative as we can to still sharpen our saw and make sure that our skills and talents and abilities are continuously improving. I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, you have enclosed in your packet, we received a resignation from Trudy Amundsen. Her term on the Airport Commission expires, I believe it was at the end of 21, is it, Trace?
23.
23. Trudy's indicated that she will be serving through December of this year. And so in consultation with the chair, we did place an advertisement for that. And so I wanted you to know that opening is there. I would suggest that you should come up with an interview team, if you will. In the past, that's been 2 board members who have taken whoever's applied, interviewed them, and then made a recommendation to the full county board. This is a full county board appointment because of the ordinance, and so I would just suggest that it would be a good time to come up with an interview team.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair,
Yes.
you said the end of, it's the end of 22, it's
Right.
1/1/23.
Right.
So this term would be filling in the term from 1/1/21 to 1/1/23. And the deadline to submit applications is November 4th. So to set interviews up after that time.
Okay, and do we set up the interview team first and then accept the resignation, or do we accept the resignation and then set up the team?
Well, I always think accepting a resignation is a funny thing, because what if you said no? And so, yes, of course, we can accept the resignation. And I think you also historically would direct staff to prepare a certificate of appreciation to Trudy for her years of service on the Airport Commission. I think that would be appropriate. Mr. Chair, you can make the appointment to the interview panel. And so I would suggest that board action would be appropriate if you'd like to direct staff to do a certificate of appreciation for Trudy. You can make the appointment for the interview panel.
I have one comment on Trudy. I've watched her over several years on that commission out there, and I believe that she's done an excellent job. She was always active and had lots of input and provided a lot of support for Mr. Wright out there at the airport. So we're going to miss her, and I think she should know that. So I would look for a motion to accept the resignation of Trudy and develop a certificate of appreciation, and we've already begun looking for the advertising, authorizing the advertising, but I would look for that as part of the motion also.
So moved.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion.
So, second?
Commissioner Brecken seconds. Therese, if you'll call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That passes. And I would appoint, it's my understanding, well, let me ask, who's interested in being on the interview team?
Mr. Chair, I did send you, or I did call you and left you a message on your cell phone. I don't know if you got it, but
Yes.
I did indicate that I was interested in being on the panel for choosing a replacement for Trudy. And you are correct. Trudy has been an excellent commission member. She's a licensed pilot. Sad to see her go, but you know, she served her with distinction, and so we'll move on and try to find somebody else that could be just as good.
So you're throwing your name in, Commissioner Coring, and I did receive that message from you, and I appreciate that.
I can do it too if no one else wants to. I can do it if no one else wants to.
You had indicated.
I'm available if so.
So explain to me, if we have 3 on there, does that change anything?
It would mean we would advertise it, so we certainly can. It would open the interviews to the public. I don't see that as a big deal. So you could have 1, you could have 5.
If Doug wants to do it, I don't need to.
Okay. Okay, and that takes board action, you said.
The chair can appoint the interview committee. The
Okay.
full board has to appoint the actual commission member that you select.
Oh, I see, once we whittle it down to 1.
Yes.
Okay, so I will appoint Commissioner Coring and Commissioner Hoag to be the interview team for the Airport Commission position.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, also I have received a letter from Region 5 Commissioner Franzine is, her 3-year term is ending in January of '21. I did talk with Commissioner Franzine. She is interested in serving another term. She's eligible to serve another term. This is an appointment that's made by the full board, I believe, because it is to the Regional Development Commission. And so she's eligible for reappointment and would suggest she be reappointed.
So we would need a motion then and pass it by the board. So I would look for a motion to reappoint Commissioner Franzine.
Mr. Chair, I would make that motion.
Commissioner Coring makes the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Hoag seconds that motion. Therese, if you'll call the roll call.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. Congratulations.
Thank you very
Commissioner?
much.
Mr. Chair, that's all I have today, unless you have any questions about anything I've covered or anything else related to county government.
Nothing else, I don't believe. Commissioners, do you have any other business? I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Franzine would like to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Hoag would like to get out of here twice as fast. Seconds that motion. Therese, if you'll call the roll call.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Adam.